So a couple of things. Might as well start. First of all, getting back to, there was a question from last week that I said I had to look up about for interference to occur down the first baseline and the throw does have to happen. The throw, yeah, you have to have a throw. You don't have to hit the person. If your judgment shows that like they, in trying to avoid hitting the person who was in, not in the running lane, that caused a wild pitch, then you do not need to, that is still interference. You can still make that call. But again, there must be a throw.
Yeah, that was question 16 on the test.
And so I want to just get that right out. A couple of things.
Thank you for looking that up.
No problem. And speaking of looking things up, and the app itself is free.
I'm gonna go out in the living room.
But you have to pay yearly for the books. But I still think one of the best things out there is the I know they've got it for iPhone. I'm sure they have it for Android. Is the NFHS rules app. Whatever sport you do, you can download the. It'll download the rule book. You can do that. I think they're $5 or $6. It's good for a year. And depending upon when you do it, so like if you do it right now, it'll have the 2022 rule book. And then when it goes to 2023, if you still have the subscription, it'll automatically switch over to that. You can also do the case book. And what I really like about it is you can look up things by keyword. And it doesn't matter where it's at, whether it's in the batter, the pitcher, the, whatever part it's in. It finds those keywords and it will just bring up all the sections with those. So, as an example, and this is going to be a huge one, but you put in dead ball. Well, every time there's dead ball, you can search, it'll bring up the section that it's in and you can go and look at that. And I think that it's because we've all been there. We're like, okay, like, is this going to be in the batter? Is this going to be in the runner? Is this going to, when you're trying to look it up, and this just lets you look it up by keyword, and it's awesome.
It's an NFHS rules app. Is that what you?
It is called. I'll give it to you specifically, and I can actually show you what it looks like. NFHS rules, and here is what. So it'll look like. And then when you get it, it'll look like this. I know it's kind of hard to see. I wish if I would have thought about it, I would have done a screenshot. But you just tell it whatever books you want to add, and boom, it'll, you download them. It's real quick, and you can just search through them. And it's saved me unbelievable hours, because you think about something, or you come up and you're like, when you've all done it, where you have to flip through 3 different sections, and this, boom, it takes you right to just wherever that word is or wherever that concept is.
All right, what is that again?
NFHS rules.
NFHS.
NF.
National.
Federation of NFHS.
NF or S?
F.
Okay, so National Federation.
Yep, NFHS high school.
NFHS. .com.
Nope, just rules. So it's an app. It's an app.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna stay here with us.
And it's just NFHS rules is the name of the app, and at least that's what it is on Apple. I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure they have it for Android, and it's
Peter has a stomach ache. Normally,
it's awesome.
Can you find it in the App Store probably?
Yep. Oh yeah. If you just go to the App Store and just search NFHS rules, and it's right there. So it's just I'll put it in the.
Cold a few days ago, but
What's
Ryan, you give us you have somehow keep tabs of who's on this meeting and credit us for this to the state.
Yep, absolutely. Because it's recording right now. And so Shane will have that recording of who's in here. I would just double check it in about a week to make sure that you did get credit, to make sure nothing happened. You can go on the MHSAA site And it'll tell you whether or not you're a member in good standing, whether or not they've reported. And if that hasn't been put there, just get a hold of Shane and he'll get it uploaded. But the association's really good about getting the names off of this and getting everybody credit.
Yeah, Mike Stram is the one that updates it.
Yep, and he's great. We're really
Yeah.
lucky to have him.
He
so.
usually does it on the weekend.
So, and speaking of that, I just want to review really quick, postseason eligibility. Remember, before you can do a game, it's not just postseason this year. Before you can do a game, you need to do the rules meeting, the regular rules meeting. You need to go on there. You need to do it. That's something I think changed.
This year.
Was it this year? Yeah, this year. It was a change this year. You have to have the rules meeting in before you can do any contest. Well, any high school contest. You can do a middle school contest without it, but I suggest any contest. It's not just for postseason anymore. You also need to be postseason eligible. You need to upload your schedule, and it's no longer, again, it's no longer the pen and paper one. You go onto the website, and it's all drop down menus. Put it in there. What I like about it is you can put how many games. Before you could only, like, if it's a single, is it a double, and you were working on 4 games in a tournament. It's like, well,
Resident. He was one of my.
you couldn't do that. So it's drop down menu. You have to do that. You have to make sure you're a member in good standing. And then the 30 question postseason exam. And again, you get to do that twice
Oh,
this
absolutely.
year. So, do it.
Arthur here.
Make sure that, you get it right. Any mistakes you have, look them up, double check them. We went over that before. If you have any questions about it, feel free to email me.
Name is Dr. Randall Bell.
And that's due the 20th.
Yep, and those are all due April 20th. So, and don't wait till the 20th to do it, because when usually what happens is
Hard to get
a
someone.
lot of people are trying to do it and it doesn't, the system doesn't work very well on that day. So my suggestion is get it done ASAP,
What's the due date?
April 20th.
Oh, okay.
The best doctors don't understand the
So,
particular.
which is nice, because in the past you used to have to turn your schedule in so early. Like, okay, I don't have my schedule yet. Like I've
Would you consider talking
got
to?
10 of my games, but I know I'm going to be doing a lot more. But yeah,
So to do the schedule, Ryan, you just go to the MHSA website, and there's a place there for signing up your schedule.
Yep. Go to referee or official services. And then, it'll be, how like you go in. Oh, and the other thing you have to do, I apologize, is you have to put your availability in. Make sure you go in and put your availability as far as what, dates you are available for the state tournament.
And ultrasounds.
It's by default right now. I believe it's got you listed as not available for any of them. You need to go in and you need to make your availability known.
No, not with regular monitoring.
So when's the rules?
Too high.
Not the rules, the exam
That question wasn't for me, but you're right.
due? Is it too late? I miss it?
Nope. It's due. I'll double check it, but I believe it's due the 20th as well.
Yeah, it's due the 20th.
Is it the
Okay.
20th?
Cool.
Yeah, it says it right on the exam.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
So,
cool.
yep, the 20th. And if you got any questions about it, any of the things, just feel free to email me. My email's I'll put it in the chat, but it's also right on the
Of course.
association's website as well.
And if you go onto the sports specific under softball to put your schedule in, there's a tutorial that walks you through it as well.
Okay, good. But again, I think it's pretty easy. I like it better than the paper, not just because I'm a technology guy. I just think that it's just
It's not a fun distraction.
easier than you're not trying to scan it and fax it and do all that stuff. You can just go in and you can do it at your leisure.
Yeah, I think it's much better too, especially for basketball.
So, a couple real quick things that I did want to hit, just again about weather. Remember,
What's up?
lightning and thunder are the same thing, right? Thunder means lightning. So you need to, if you hear thunder, if you see lightning,
How often is your tummy hurt?
Right.
Pete?
you kill it. Go and you,
Tell me anything, Pete. I understand.
it's 30 minutes from the last lightning or thunder. So every time you see lightning or hear thunder again, it's another 30 minutes. and the teams have to go to their designated safe areas. It's not it's the home team who is designate whatever the safe area is. Keep that in mind when you do this. If they ask you, hey, where do I go? What do I do? Hey, that's on the home team. You go to they should tell you where your safe area is, but don't mess around with that. I know that a lot of times they're going to try and push you and hey, we got to get this game in. We got to do this. Nope. And that's something that, everybody will back you up on. And if ADs should back you up on that, but more importantly, the state will, the association will, everybody, no, they will look silly and foolish for trying to do that. And I understand that, hey, it might be a tough call because you might have to say, look, even though it's not that late, this game is over because we got 30 minutes for Lightning. I'm going to have to give you some time to warm up. And then, we're only in the third or fourth inning. Like, we're not going to finish this game before dark. So we might as well start rescheduling it now. Like I said, I know that's not a popular thing, but, unfortunately, that's something that sometimes we have to do. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Ryan, before I forget, on the schedule that we do, I usually, do they ask us for the home team? They ask you for the away, so we need to know the away team too?
I believe it asks, does it? I believe.
That's they used to. I just wondering, I can't remember where they do that or not. I know that.
I believe it does.
Oh, okay.
But now that should also be an arbiter. It should tell you who you're playing. The only time it usually won't is if you've got a Saturday triple header and it'll just say TBA or whatever. And that's usually fine. If you want to find out who's in it, you can always email the coach, or you can
I'm
go
just saying,
on.
when we do that schedule, we got to know the home and the away team. We got to write all that shit down so we
Right.
know it before we put it, go to that schedule.
Right. And the easiest thing to do, what I always did when I did it, was I just always had one tab with arbiter open, one tab with the schedule open, and I just kind of flipped back and forth between them. So I'd go like here, okay, here we go. And that to me was always the
All right, have fun.
easiest way to do it. So, any other questions about that? And again, you'll be able to get all of that should be on Arbiter. Okay, so for today, a couple of things I wanted to go over. We had a big discussion about obstruction and interference last time, and I kind of want to just first of all make sure that there are no more questions about that. And again, it can be confusing. But I kind of want to make sure that there were nothing else about that. We all good with that? Remember that there is the big thing is, because I got a call on this already, there's not an automatic penalty of the base. It's you determine where they would have gotten had there not been obstruction. Sometimes you're going to put them back at the original base. They turn the corner at second base, they hit the first baseman, they try and leg it out, they get thrown out at second, but you're like, you know what, whether that obstruction was there or not, there's no way they're getting to second base. They're not out, but they're not getting second base automatically. So just keep that in mind. Anything else?
Would you say if they round first and they?
So let's say they round first, right? The first baseman doesn't give them the corner. They round first hard. They hit the first baseman. Okay. So we got obstruction now. They decide they're going to maybe try and leg it out to second. Now they get thrown out at second by a mile.
Yeah.
Okay. Like you're like, it gets there way early. That's one of those, where it's real easy tag out. It's not like it's a boom, boom. It's not like it's, hey, if they had a step, they just get nuked. Doesn't mean that they get second. They're not out. They can't be out between those two bases, but sometimes you're putting them back at first. Like, coach, you know what? I don't think she would have gotten second base regardless. She's not out. but she wouldn't have gotten second base regardless. So she's safe, but at first base. And that's one of those big misconceptions is people think that there's or some people think there's an automatic penalty, and there's not. So just kind of have that in the back of your mind. You know, it doesn't happen that often. Most of the time, if they're going to try and leg it out, but you know, some coaches are smart enough to know that. And as soon as there's obstruction, as soon as they see that hand go up, they're going to send her anyway and hope that, hey, maybe there's an overthrow. Maybe it's a bad throw. Maybe somebody mishandles the ball, right? They've got nothing to lose by sending her.
And they'll try to talk you into it too.
Yep. But a good first base coach will recognize you going up like this and send her because they know they have nothing to lose by sending her. So just kind of keep that in mind.
Ryan, I have a question on interference. Is it a
Yep.
delayed dead ball or immediate dead ball?
It's a delayed dead. Interference is immediate. You kill it immediately.
Okay, so here's my scenario. I've got a runner on third and a runner on first, ground ball hit, and there's 0 outs. And the ground ball is hit and there's interference with the second baseman. You know, and I'm not even determining whether there's a double play. The runner on third is 2 feet away from home by the time that the interference occurs. So we let that play continue and put the runner back to third base.
That's right. So you kill it, right? As soon as that interference occurs, as soon as that, you know, you've got interference, they hit that second baseman fielding the ball. We go up, we kill it, dead ball. Yeah, they go to they go to that base. They go back to the previous base. That even though that runner was there 2 feet away, you're going back to third. And then, like you said, you have the option to determine, was that going to break up a double play?
Of course.
The other thing too is, and I know you weren't here at the beginning, I did look it up. There does have to be a throw. Yes. The throw doesn't have to hit her. The other thing is, and this is, usually it's a double base thing, which we don't use, but it can also be a single base thing. If on a drop third strike, the drop third strike takes the catcher into foul territory. You know, they go down, right? You know, they go down to block it. It pops into foul territory. The first baseman realizes that, and they set up in foul territory for a throw. Okay. At that point, the runner can use fair territory the entire way.
I didn't know that.
Yep. So, you know, as long as it's a clear, obvious setup in foul territory, which they're allowed to do, you know, hey, the ball goes there. I set up in foul territory, you know, and it's kind of hard to see right now on the Zoom, but you know what I mean? They'll do that. They'll give that stretch out in a foul territory or foul territory. Yeah. Then, you know what? As long as it's an obvious setup, the runner can use fair territory the entire way. That's a safety issue.
Okay,
know.
so you say the runner can use fair territory. They're not mandated to use fair territory though.
Correct.
Okay. So they have an option at that point.
Yes, it's up to them. But, you know, the idea behind that rule was, look at the runner recognizes, it really came from the double base system. In the double base system in softball on a drop third strike, you could use that orange base, that, you know, that orange base, that outside base that was never, you couldn't get anybody out on. That was the only way you could get somebody out. And so what they did is they just said, look, it's to keep somebody, to avoid contact, I guess is the best way. It's to, avoid a collision. So it kind of makes sense. And a lot of girls that play in the summer with the double bag, they just will recognize that and they'll automatically do it. So, but yeah, they can use the inside. So.
What do you got? You got that foul ball. I mean, the drop third strike goes into foul territory. The first baseman does what you said. They set up for the catcher to throw it to them in foul territory. The runner is in fair territory, running down the ball that the catcher throws hits the runner in the back while they are in fair territory.
Yep. And you know what? It says, hold on, and I will look it up because it's in the actual case book. And it is, here, hold on. I can tell you here situation.
I would say it's a no call because that.
No, it is. It's a no call. Hold on, but it's in the. It's right here in the. it's in it because I knew someone was going to ask about it. I'm sorry. Hold on. Not so for space. Where's it at? Anyway, I'll find in a second. But yeah, no, it specifically talks about that situation. That no, it's not. As long as it's a clear setup in, in your opinion, it's a clear setup in foul territory. Nope, they're allowed to run in fair territory, and it won't be an interference issue. So it won't be a popular call, but
Yeah, really.
it's one of those. You know what? Hey, she clearly set up, coach. And again, the verbiage that I always tell people to use is by rule.
I rule.
Coach, by rule, when she sets up in the foul territory, they give the runner fair territory by rule. Because then, it's hard to argue. They still will, but it's one of those, when you say by rule, it's not my opinion, coach. It's not this by rule. It's like with jewelry. Coach, by rule, she cannot play with jewelry on. So there's no options. It's black and white by rule. And that's one of those things that I always try and, remember. And you're still going to get people to argue with you, but I can't remember who it was. Might have been Tom Poma that said that I'll never forget. And he said, always, if you can, start it with by rule. And, when you can do those things, and that helps alleviate some of the issue, because now it's just, hey, coach, this is not my opinion. This is not this. It is a rule. And so, you hope that they understand, and that helps.
So that's establishing her running lane, right?
Yes.
Is that right? That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
All right.
Tom, I'll see you tomorrow. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
If you're going to say by rule, you have to make sure you enunciate clearly, because during basketball season, I had a coach thinking I was saying my rule, MY.
Yeah, that won't go over well. Yeah, you don't want to make up your own stuff. So are there any questions? Anything happened? I did get a couple of calls over, in the past week or so about a couple instances that came up, just wanting to clarify rules and everything. Anything that anybody wants me to go over really quick before I hit the last couple of things that I wanted to, and then I'll get us out of here kind of early.
Hey, Ryan, got Steve Bouya in this end, first time caller, long time listener.
Well, glad to have you, Steve.
The only thing that's been a bugaboo in my rear, I actually emailed Andy Oysters and she didn't give me a very clear answer regarding this, but I tried to look it up in the rule book and there really wasn't anything. So I got a pitching change, and the girls, or even during the innings, a lot of the girls like to get as close to home plate as possible to time the pitcher. And I keep telling them, back up, sometimes I'll get so frustrated. I'll say, get in the batter circle. And they look at me like I'm crazy. Even the coaches will try that.
You know what? That is, and that by rule, they're supposed to be there. They're not supposed to come up. I remind them that, I'll tell them flat out, I'm like, do you want to play in college? Yeah. Well, they'll throw at you for that.
Absolutely.
Right. And I'm like, not during the game, like they'll throw at you right now. And if they throw at you right now, it's iffy on if I can do anything. I've got to determine, was that really intentional, or did you just kind of have a wild pitch? It's something that I go over, and that's one of the things I was going to talk about. It's something that I try and go over in the pregame. I say, hey, coaches, look, they want us to do this. I'm going to be honest with you. It's, you've got girls that want to play at the next level, and you need to teach them this, because at the next level, you get thrown at for that. Like that is, and without question, without hesitation, and it's just accepted by everybody. So you need to teach them it now. And I get that they want to get up there and they want to time it, and it's a tough thing to do, and you got to kind of just, hey, no, and hammer it. Because again, as you do, and you've done some college, I mean, it's considered really unsportsmanlike.
Oh, no, I never saw it in college that they would be anywhere near
Right, and that's why they won't do it in college, because it's considered really unsportsmanlike. It's, it's considered like obvious sign stealing or whatever, and like they will handle it with street justice. And I'm not saying that's right, but that's how they're going to handle it.
Okay, well, I just wanted by rule.
By rule, they cannot be there. By rule, they cannot be there. By rule, they're supposed to be in the on deck circle.
Okay.
And again, I would handle that with, try and handle that in a pregame, which is kind of the thing that I wanted to talk about today, which was pregames. Pregame can help alleviate some issues or can help cause some issues for you. You want to go over and you want to make your pregame short and sweet. At the same time, you want to make sure that you cover everything. I've seen people go over good pregames and time them and everything, and about 90 seconds to 2 minutes is usually the max. You want to collect the lineups. You want to double check the lineups. You want to go over, hey coach, I show 10 here. I show a flex DP, 3 subs, hand it back to him. Take one last look, give it back to me. It'll be efficient. Here you go, coach. All right. Everybody's got their own. I always then say, hey coach, it's your field. I tell the home coach, it's your field. Why don't you tell us about it? They go over all of the ground rules. If I'm not sure of any, I double check with it. Hey, wait, you said the fascia there on the dugout is out of play or in play. I didn't quite understand when, and be very specific about your questions with that. If the other coach has any questions, they'll just ask. Don't ask them. I never ask the other coach, hey coach, do you have any questions about this? That's up to them as far as I'm concerned as a coach. If they're confused, they need to bring that up. It's not my job to, prod that out of them. And then all of a sudden, they're asking a million questions and everything. They're an adult. They need to ask that. I remind them, I double check about, hey, we got 1 game or 2. I always remind about warm-up pitches. Hey, we got to hustle them in and hustle them out. And I remind them, technically, you only get a minute between innings. Now, I'm not going to necessarily be out there with a stopwatch like they are in the major leagues, but I'm going to hustle them. And one of the things that I tell the pitcher is, look, and the catcher, if you're going to huddle, we're not taking all the warm-up pitches. You normally get 5 the first inning, 3 the rest of the innings. I'm like, hey, you get 1, and if you're going to huddle, and even then the huddle needs to be quick. And I put that on the catcher later on, but I remind him of that. I tell him, hey, you guys grab your balls from this side. You guys grab your balls from this side. Please make sure that I know about all changes. That they come through me. Don't let the other, I remind them of that. Don't let the other team just know, tell me, I will let the other team know. And other than that, is there anything else anybody thinks that we need to go over in a pregame?
I remind them of sportsmanship, because you never know. You never know what can happen in the heat of a battle.
Yep. And then the only other thing too that I remind them of is, and I always put this on the captains, is I remind them of jewelry. I said, coach, we can't have any jewelry. Like it's a by rule thing. I said, captains, it's your job to go in there and to double check, really it's the coaches, but it's their job to double check. The other thing that you need to ask, and I always do it right away, is you ask both coaches, especially it's really now that we don't have to check equipment. Coach, are all your players legally and properly equipped? Are all your players legally and properly equipped?
Yeah, that's usually the first thing I ask, and then I tie into the jewelry. I just say double check, make sure nobody's wearing jewelry.
Yep. And and then get out of there, get in and out.
But the donor had an undisclosed.
I never
In another donor covered up.
no, I just remind them, another thing to verify too is if it's a double header, who's home?
Yes.
Both games, we home this,
Their kids.
or are you home and away?
Yeah, but I mean, this is.
But again, other than that,
Right? I mean, I have a lot of friends.
keep it short, keep it sweet. Right? And don't get on there and ramble too long, because the longer you ramble, then the longer they're going to want to ramble, and they're going to want to get into situations, and you don't want to get into situations. You don't want to get into those things. That's not what the pregame is for. The pregame is to go over some stuff, to go over the basics, to make sure everybody's legally and properly equipped, to set the tone for the game, to make sure that, everything is set to run the way it's supposed to run. If coaches have questions about situations, they need to bring those up with you usually before the game or at other times. The only situation that usually gets brought up, that should get brought up with a pregame, is a ground rule situation. You know, where they've got a question about a ground rule. Hey, so wait, if it gets, you know, if you've got a tarp, wait a second here. So now what about if it goes in this part of the tarp? Or what about if it goes in this part of the tarp where one of the coaches is asking? And usually it's a visiting coach, obviously. And so, you know, clarify those. But again, keep your pre-games short and sweet. You know,
You might want to mention media. If there's media at a game.
if there is
big
media
game.
there, then yep, take care of that. But 90% of the time, here's the thing, your media, you're not going to have a media area, and you're not going to know the media is there until usually they get there kind of after the game starts. But then again, you know, if they've got a media area, that's something to bring up. If not, then there's really not much to bring up because they're just not allowed on the field. If they step out on the field or try and do that stuff, like, hey, I can't have you out here. You know, and sometimes it's easier to address that during the game than before the game. I'm always iffy on that because, you know, if you address it before the game, then all of a sudden you got, you know, the media out there, they want to talk to you, they want to do this. Hey, if it's during the game, I can't have you out here. And then, you know, you can just get going. We got to get going with the game now.
Yeah, normally the head coach will help you with that.
Yep. So any other questions, anything anybody needs me to go over again tonight?
Hey, Ryan, we were talking about like pitching changes. A couple of years ago, I had a situation where the coach wanted the third baseman and pitchman to switch. So I'm like, fine. But then he wanted the new third baseman to be able to do warm-up throws with the rest of the infield. And I wasn't sure if that was allowed or not.
No.
Okay, good. I told him no, and he acted surprised, and I wasn't sure if it was right, but I told him it was a safety issue.
Correct. Yep. Nope. It's, you know, that other pitcher can come in and they can get, you know, some warm-ups in. Now, the only time I would let something like that happen, maybe give somebody some throws or whatever, is if it was an injury. You know, it's kind of like when an example of this was, I had a game a couple years ago, first inning, 1 out, girl just takes a rocket off the leg. Just, I mean, like it was, you heard it. It sounded, it's one of those ones where, you know, you're like, oh my God, that she just broke her leg. You know, it's a cold day. It's the beginning of the season. You know, he's got to bring in another pitcher all of a sudden like this. Well, normally we'd say like, hey, it's your responsibility to warm the person up. Nobody's thinking warming up a pitcher with 1 out and 1 strike. Like, yeah, coach, we're going to give her, I'll let her warm up. You know what I mean? We're not going to let anybody get hurt. We're going to use professional judgment here. You know, if it was a situation where a third baseman all of a sudden took a rocket, he's like, hey, like I want her to get some throws. Am I going to let her throw on the infield? No. But while that pitcher's warming up, sure, coach, she can have a ball and she can make a couple throws, whatever, just to kind of get her arm loose, especially if it's colder. You know, but in that situation, I wouldn't do it. It's not allowed to be done. You know, he had to know that. Again, it's a professional judgment thing. A lot of times with injuries, you know, that girl takes you know, there's no reason to be thinking she's going to sub, and you know, she takes a tip off the mitt right into the face. Okay, yeah, we're going to bring the girl in. Or I've even, while they're treating her out there, I've said like, hey, you know, I'll go to the assistant coach and be like, hey, whoever's going in, start getting them warmed up. You know, and just that way, then, you know, you can even avoid that. You know, or hey, you know, your partner's over there looking at them, you know, is watching this, you know, with the injured player. Again, you can, as the other official, go over there and be like, hey, doesn't look like she's coming back. If you're going to get somebody out there, get somebody, you know, you might want to have somebody throwing right now. But
for a typical run of the mill position change, no.
No.
Okay, thanks.
So, any other questions? And again, remember, speaking of professional judgment, the one thing I'll leave you with is, yes, you know, they want us to enforce the uniform standards, and they want us to, and we should. We need to do a better job of that as officials with the sleeves and all this. But do remember, I mean, it's snowing out. So, you know, when it's 45 degrees or it's 40 degrees and we're out there and, you know, they're out there, we're not always in the perfect uniform. Like I said before, I mean, there are times I have every article of clothing I can find in a car on. You know, and so remember that with them. don't be the person that's like, well, no, coach, you can't have the, that long, that set of long johns on because, it peaks out and, it's camouflage. Let's be realistic here. I mean, it's one thing if it's 75 and it's, an arm sleeve. It's another thing if it's 35 and it's windy and we're just trying to stay warm and not get hypothermia.
And I know in the past you suggested proactive things like, don't you have like a team warm-up shirt or a sweatshirt?
Stuff like that. But I've been out there, like I said, I mean, we've all been out there at games where like, I think of South Lyon where it's up on the hill and the
Right.
wind is just awful. And says it's 40 degrees, but the wind chill, it's 30 degrees and, everybody is just miserable. And so, yeah, let them wear the stuff. If it's a big bulky jacket or something like that, you might say, hey coach, they can't bat in it. But yeah, if they get on base, yep, absolutely. We're going to put it on. So, that's an easy thing to avoid. I would say that's an easy thing to avoid problems. You're just using solid professional judgment.
Hey, Brian, just one last question. I think this is a question I'm sure everyone would appreciate being asked. I'm just predicting that with all the bad weather, there are probably gonna be a lot of games crammed in as such. We'll probably be doing games by ourselves. What is the expectation in terms of compensation? Is it gonna be 1.5 or is it gonna be 2 this year? Twice the rate.
My understanding of, and I have not read this, I will be honest, I've not read this part of the officials guidebook in quite some time. But my understanding is that if an official doesn't show,
Or there's only one scheduled.
now I don't know about one schedule. That's where it gets kind of tricky. If an official doesn't show, theirs is supposed to be, and I need to look it up, and I can email me and I will look it up probably either tonight or tomorrow. But their game fee is supposed to be then split among the other officials. So as an example, the example I was given, this was years ago, a 3-man basketball crew, one of the guys doesn't make it, he is supposed to go to the other 2 guys.
Correct.
My understanding then with baseball and softball was 2-man officiating crew, you're supposed to get the other officials thing, the other officials fee. Where I don't know is, like you said, if only one is purposely assigned. I know now I would assume that since it's supposed to be 2, they are going to, it should be like 2 was assigned and only 1 happened. I know that some leagues or some districts used to.
Livonia, you only uses 1 for subvarsity and it's 1.5.
Okay, and so I know that that's like just, you're taking that with the expectation of not having 2.
Yeah, that's what I've also heard in Detroit and other places. They'll pay you time and a half unless 2 are actually assigned to the game. But if you're assigned, they'll pay you double. But if you're assigned to the game by yourself, the most they'll pay you is time and a half.
Right, and that might be,
because the key word they telling me is that it says assigned. So if it's not on the arbiter that 2 were assigned, they're not going to pay you double, is what I've been told in a lot of places.
Yep. And so that, you know what, I will get a hold, that's a really good question, Steve. I will get a hold of Brett Rice on that. And I will get an answer.
Okie dokie.
So I don't know, it might take a day or 2, but yeah, I will get a hold of him and I will get an answer for that.
It's interesting, in some states, if there's only 1 official, the coaches get together and they decide whether or not to continue with the game. I know in Michigan that obviously can't happen.
No, unfortunately it can't.
But to proceed with
And it's,
the pressure from Pierce.
yeah,
Brand.
it's
Yeah.
just what it is. It's kind of crazy.
And 9 times out of 10, the guy that don't show, they'll just try to give you a game and a half. If you let your assigner know, he'll try to get you the other half, but normally they just try to give you a game and a half.
Mhm.
I know Bob Check and Gary Wagon Shoots are usually pretty good about that.
But yeah, I will get an answer on that, Steve.
Right, cool.
Next
Take
day or
care.
2.
There is-
Any other questions?
What he just said in there won't help, Peter. Keeping your objectivity, well, you have to.
Anything else? All right. Well, if there's nothing else, again, my contact information, I'll put it in the I will put it in right now, but it's also on the website. And please feel free to get a hold of me if you need to.
That's the MDOA website, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. And my cell phone. Both of them are on there. So there's my email, there's my cell phone. And again, please feel free to call anytime. So there's nothing else. Everybody have a great time. Everybody have a great night.
Thanks a lot, Ryan.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.